Hey, I'm Taylor Dorsett, and this is the Professional Technical Interviewee. Technical interviews are hard, and every company does them differently. On this show, I interview engineering leaders to see what they look for in technical candidates, and then they perform a real technical interview with me. My guest today is Veronica Buitron. She's the CEO and founder of TangoCode, based out of the Chicagoland area. We talk about what she's looking for when hiring and trying to find a culture fit for TangoCode, and how she got her first job. I hope you enjoy. Well, welcome, Veronica. How are you?
Very good, thank you. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks so much for being here. I guess today is Veronica Buitron, who is currently the CEO and co-founder of TangoCode, which is a software development agency focused on like web and mobile applications based out of Chicago, who also has a big focus on cultural diversity and diversity within the company. And then before that, for many years, you were with GeneXus as a co-founder, CTO, owner, I think probably everything, right? Did I miss anything?
Yeah, I also make coffee. That's okay.
There you go. That's how you can get it all done, right? Great. Well, can you share just a little bit about TangoCode and kind of, obviously, your role has probably grown and changed over your time there, but a little bit about TangoCode and kind of what you do at the company?
Yeah, sure. So at TangoCode, we're a small company. We are about kind of 40 people. We do have offices in Chicago and also Uruguay, Ecuador, and Argentina. So we have people working from LATAM and also from Chicago. So we started, TangoCode really started as a company where we had been in software development for quite a while before, with GeneXus, and we were offering services, custom development services around our product. And we wanted to change the way we work. We felt that we have learned better ways of how to work, and we wanted to build a company with the premise that we were going to have fun and be proud of the work and provide good value to our clients. So the genesis when we started with TangoCode was the idea of saying, okay, what is all what we learn? What are all the things that we don't want to do anymore, right? And what are the things that we want to do, and how do we want to work? And one of the big emphasis and focus in TangoCode was team collaboration. It's like we felt that because we were already, when we were GeneXus USA, we had Chicago and Uruguay, and we were working as if we were two disparate companies, right? Chicago, the US, will talk to clients, will do something, send specs, and then they will go and build stuff. And we basically were like two separate heads, didn't talk to each other, and many times didn't even understand each other.
Sure.
But we were the same company. So we really wanted to kill that, and with the idea of it doesn't matter where you are, we are a team, and everybody in the team has good ideas. And, and if you don't have a good ideas, you shouldn't be working in the company to start with. You know what I mean? So with that premise, that's basically how we started in TangoCode.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so interesting because we see so often all companies, but especially tech companies, you have your core values on the wall somewhere, right? Or whatever the things your company's supposed to stand for. But it's so rare to actually see someone, acting on those or actually implementing those day to day. So it's interesting to see like, oh, this was very much kind of trying to rise from the ashes of maybe something that was like that before, to actually making sure that that's a part of the day-to-day work life there, right? Of like actually caring and actually putting those things into place.
Yep. Yeah, it is definitely, many times it is exactly as you said, right? But then you have the contrary, right? At the beginning, they go, what is your big vision for the company? I was like, have fun, respect each other, and give good value to our clients. It didn't sound like this, like I discovered the thing, but yeah, definitely we started with values.
Yeah. That's great. And what is your pathway into technology? Did you go the traditional computer science route, or were you more self-taught, or what did that look like?
So I went the traditional route. So I went computer science in the university back in Uruguay, where I'm come from, many years ago. Started, but very early on, I feel I was lucky, I guess. Like I started working in a startup, and that was how, kind of like I got my first job.
Hmm.
And it was a generator, so it wasn't something simple. They had like this software product that generated code, and they they had a thesis. So I'm sure here too, like when you are at the end of your career, you can do projects in real companies from the university. So to do your thesis, and they had different candidates, and this company was one of them. And I read about it, couldn't really understand much, but one thing caught my attention about the type of machine. And I knew that I needed to learn about that machine. So I go into the interview really wanting to get the work, right? And go there, didn't understand much of what they were explaining me. And I got it. And I was so excited about it. And then I started working with them, which is basically was GeneXus that then brought me to the US, actually.
Nice.
And they still are huge. Now it's like one of the biggest software companies in Uruguay. They are in 27 countries. They became huge. Many years afterwards, I had a really good relationship with the president. And I asked him, I was like, it was clear that I didn't understand what you were talking about. So how did I got the job, right? And he was like, well, and this taught me, the reason why I'm telling you is because this taught me something. He was like, well, you call at 7 p.m. and then I asked you when you could come, and then you said, could you be right now? Then you came in here and you were very excited about it. And he's like, and I know I could teach you what you don't know, but I know I cannot teach you to be passionate. And that's what I saw in you. I was like, okay, point taken. That's what I need to look for.
Yeah, that's great. I think it's a great story too, because so often especially if you're hiring for early career folks, you're hiring for almost potential, right? You don't really care what they can do day one, as long as they know how to learn, right? Because it's what they can do 365 days into the job, or 2 years into the job, or 3 years into the job, right? That's what you're actually kind of looking for, right?
Absolutely. So in my path, I started with them about doing training on the product and helping clients use their product. And then I like to travel. So they started to go international. They started to go, at the beginning, LATAM, like Argentina and Paraguay, and whatever they will say, we need a training, I will be like, hands up. So then when they got to the US, I did the same thing. And I came here to help the clients, with the product. And that's how I started to get more into the consulting side and closer to the business piece.
Yeah, great. And I usually ask folks how you landed your current job, but was this, obviously you helped found this company, right? So it's a little bit of a different process, right? It's not like you're going through a traditional technical interview, right?
Yeah, I did the technical interview because it was so that first I did the technical interview with them to get the job in the company through this, like, that the president actually hired me knowing that I didn't know much, but it was a potential. Then when I came to the US, after I came to the US as an employee for them. And then as time passed, I had the opportunity to add services. I wanted to do consulting services. And that's when I became independent and have my own company. But the first the first time I started working with them was basically as an employee. So
yeah. Great. Have you done technical interviews lately for TangoCode or for your team?
Yeah. So I depending on the role of what we hire, I am part of the interview process for sure. In general, so we have different types of interviews. So we have about like 4 different types of interviews, 3 or 4, depending on the role, and then a code challenge, pretty much always, regardless of the role. I normally at this point, because of what we were talking about and because of the part of the potential, I normally take the culture interview.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What are you typically evaluating? Obviously, passion, right? That's one thing. What else are you typically evaluating for in those interviews?
So, actually, things that you mentioned, exactly things that you mentioned are very, very important for me, and that's why I take the culture interview. It is important to understand what the person is passionate about. Mm. It is important to understand how the person learns, because in tech, especially, it's not that relevant what you know today. Mm. What it's relevant is that you do have an engine of learning, and that you do have the desire of being better every day, and that you have a high bar for what it is right, and that you are passionate. So those really are the things that we look. Of course, that depending on the role, if we're looking for somebody that is going to guide people, yeah, of course we look for a specific experience. But in beginner roles, it really doesn't really matter where you study or what you study, as long as you have those characteristics. We are very big in so in TangoCode we do agile development like everybody else says they do, but we do it seriously. We literally believe in what agile development stands for what it stands for. It connects to our values and our ideals. And one of the big things is continuous improvement. Mm-hmm. So that continuous improvement in code, you can't have continuous improvement in code if you don't have the continuous improvement thinking.
Yeah.
So that's basically what we look for.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Do you, maybe this is difficult on kind of on the other side of the table, but do you have things that stand out to you? Like if you see, I mean, obviously there's having commits on GitHub or being able to show a project or portfolio, right? But do you have other ways that it's clear when you're talking to someone like, oh, clearly this person's passionate, right? Or like, oh, I can tell that they really care about this thing, right? I guess, what are you looking for as far as like, how can they actually show that?
So literally we have questions designated to that. Yeah. So we ask, and during the questions we ask about, and I'm like in the culture interview, I'm very like frank about it. It's an interview, yeah. You're going to show your best face, and I'm not going to get to know about you, right? So I try to do, I really believe on this. What I try to do is like when you're in an interview, is it normally you think about it as a one-sider thing, right? There's the interviewee trying to impress the interviewer, right? And I'm basically trying to say, don't do that, because you're here because you think TangoCode is a good fit, but you don't know, right? And the worst thing that can happen to you is go to a company that is not a good fit, because you're losing time. So we are equals here. We're both trying to find out, is this a good place for you or not? So don't focus on trying to impress me, because then you are going to mislead me, and it's going not to be good for you. I don't believe that people are a bad hire. they're just a bad fit. People are, are good. You either didn't realize that you company were not a good place for that individual, right? For them to succeed. Everybody has a path to succeed. Everybody has a possibility of being much better than what they are. The context has a lot to do with that, right? And maybe what that person needed for them to be the best version of themselves is not what you could provide. So I try to go through from that point of view. It's like, help me be sure that together we figure out if this is a good place for you. So how do you learn? How do you feel respected? What do you value in life? What do you value at work? So those are the things that I try to uncover in the interview, but really not as a test. I always said there's not a good or, there's not a right or wrong answer. It's really about like, are we at a good place for you or not?
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think that it's open-ended enough that people can answer in a variety of different ways, right? And hopefully you can pull what you need to from those questions. That's great. As far as the process, you said there's always a coding challenge, right? You always have a cultural. What are the other steps in the interview process for TangoCode?
So in this step, we have like in the different steps of our processes. So it starts with a filter and a phone call. So we normally have kind of like a filtering call. Just don't even try to, don't, everybody's time is valuable. Let's just not try to spend time if we're not even aligned in the hello, right? We are a remote first company. You're looking for a place that has an office. Okay. It's not going to work. You know what I mean? So those basic things. So we have a filtering in the phone call. And then from there on, what we have is we invite the person to be with us about 3 hours. And so that's why we tell them, hey, let's really be sure that the filtering we're all good. So we're going to both of us spend like about 3 hours together. And we go through different types of interviews. We do work interview. So what is the work experience? And if you haven't had a work experience, any type of experience that illustrates that, gets you here, right? So maybe you're self-taught. Okay, great. Tell us about that. Maybe if this is your first job, but you have done some projects for yourself. Tell us about that. So it's really about what you have done from a work perspective. We also have the culture interview, which is the one I was mentioning. And then we also have like the tech interview, which is questions according to the role, different questions to see, according to what we're expecting the person to know in the role, do they know it? And then every interview is, it goes to the next one. So it's a stop or continue. So interview one, if you don't feel that person has the characteristics that we're looking, it will not go to the next interview.
Yeah.
So every interview is a stopgap. And then if passes all that, then we do the code challenge.
To flip the sides of the table, in the past, when you've done technical interviews, when you were the interviewee, right? How do you think you did? Did you, think you did really well? Did you hate technical interviews? Somewhere in between?
So I, again, and it might have been a different thing because of my path. When I did my interview, it was my first job, right? So it wasn't too much about what I knew. What I knew was what I learned from the university. But it was about, I think I did good in the sense, like I always try to connect with the person personally, as a person.
Yeah.
That's just a characteristic of who I am. And I bring that to my interview. I was never, I always, think that it's really, a people relationship, right? Especially work, you're going to see people like all the time.
Yeah.
So I I felt I did okay, but I didn't do that many. You know what I mean? I didn't do
Right.
that many, and it had been like many, many years ago. I don't know how I would do today in the work environment. I don't know.
Sure, sure. Do you have any, obviously having been on the other side of the table a lot, interviewing folks over the years, do you have any advice or tips for people who are going into technical interviews? Obviously, make a human connection, right? That's a huge one. If you can actually make it a conversation between two people instead of just, here's a question, code away, right?
For us, at least for us in TangoCode, I would say absolutely the human connection. And I know some things, I know some things sounds cliche, but they're real. That's a problem, right? The be yourself is I really think about this is not, I'm trying to impress you, is we are trying to find out if this is a good thing for me. So for me, the interviewee. And so I think that's what it is important to bring in. It's important to, yes, show what you like to do, but be sure that you're showing because you like it. You're showing what you're passionate about because you like it, because what you're trying to do is find out what you are passionate about. Is that important for that company or not?
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I will be less worried about, if the answer was right or wrong. If a company, it's looking just for if the answer is right or wrong, I don't know if it would be a good company for you to learn, because it should be about the process. For us, for example, when we do technical interviews, maybe the person gives us the wrong answer at the end, or the answer that we were not expecting, but we highlight the thought process that the person did. So many times we will say, it's clear that they don't know about architecture of this. However, the way that when they got a question that they didn't know, and the process that they walk us through, it made me think that he or she does a really good job at taking a problem and breaking it in and understanding how to get to somewhere. So it's really about the process, not.
Yeah, I think that's hard to keep in mind, right? When you're in the interview seat where you're thinking, oh, I have to get the right answer, right? And it's really more so, let me show how I would come to a solution, right? Or like what I'm thinking, right? That's what someone really cares about. Because at the end of the day, that's what the job is, right? You're not going to look at some task you've been assigned and go, oh, I got the answer. Let me just type it up, right? It's now I have to think through what are the steps I would take. Oh, I don't know how to do that exactly. Let me figure that out, do some more research, right? And that's what hopefully an interview is trying to gauge, right?
Yes, it's show your thought process. Let's put it that way, right?
Yeah.
Show your thought process, and the less sure you are about the question, the more you should show your thought process.
Sure.
If you're totally like, yeah, whatever, if the question is like, it's impossible to get it wrong, it's something that you would just answer it, right? But the less sure you are about the answer, the more is where you should show your thought process.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you have any different advice or the same advice for early career folks? I mean, people who maybe this is their first job or kind of second job within the tech industry?
Yeah, so if it is your first or your second job in the tech industry, you are definitely and without a doubt looking for an environment that will support you in learning. Right? So your first job is only to learn. I always say that when it is your first job, is we have an understanding, which it is the understanding is going to be for the first 6 months, me company, I'm going to give you more than what you're going to give me.
Sure.
Then the next 6 months, right? Hopefully we get a little bit even. And then after that, you will give me a little bit more than what I gave you, and then we will go to the next position.
Sure.
That's kind of like how it, in a high level, I think it works. Or so it is very, very important that you actually get that. You know, who you're going to work with, how you're going to, you know, what process do they have to support new people, you know, not only their onboarding process, but I will ask about those things, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my first software development job, like they didn't necessarily have the greatest infrastructure in place for onboarding new people, but it was a very supportive environment. And a lot of people have fear, anxiety going into their first job of like, oh, there's so much I don't know, right? Or you get stuck with something that you're like, I feel like I shouldn't be stuck with setting up my development environment or whatever it might be, right? But having someone on the other side who's like helpful and not judgmental in those things, just from a mental health perspective is huge, right? Because you, instead of like staring at the ceiling at 3 o'clock in the morning going, I can't believe I didn't get anything done today, you can be like, okay, well, I learned something. I learned what not to do, and we'll figure out tomorrow what to do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We are pretty big on, especially being like in remote, the idea of communicate, you know.
Yeah.
Don't get stuck by yourself. We understand that you are new on this. Even from our point, like we have custom development, and then we also have a product. So we have a digital marketing product, and it's so much easier when you start something from scratch than then when you have to jump into something that it's already built and maybe it's big. So many times I've said, even if we know you have experience, so not even your first job, but sometimes depends on the type of job, or like, we understand that you have experience, you know how to code, you know all this, you have it done. But we also understand you're getting into this platform that had been built for the last 2-3 years, right? Don't get stuck. It makes sense that you don't know, that it's going to take, some months to get where you can move freely. So over communicate.
Yeah. I want that like tattooed or stamped or something on the wall, or put on all job descriptions, like 6 months. Like you're getting more from us, we're getting from you. The next 6 months, hopefully it's even. And after that, like you actually start to, make some progress. Like I wish that was more upfront at a lot of places, because I think that is true, really, regardless of the company, regardless of the role. Maybe if you're really senior, maybe you can jump into a little bit faster, but often you're thrown at larger problems too, where it's all of a sudden, it's not just getting up and running on this simple thing. You're getting up and running on something while you're managing people, and you're trying to do architecture for a new platform you don't know anything about, right? So there's complexities too.
Absolutely. And yes, yeah, absolutely. I really wish that from a job perspective, we could be more honest when we talk about.
Yeah.
Because for us, for example, that's why we totally get that people will change work and all that, right? But having this understanding, it's also like, if this is a stepping stone, let's not even, if somebody is going to change, or, only one time, I think it happened, 2 times actually, not that where that happened, that somebody within the last 6 months will change.
Yeah.
That for us, for sure, is a loss, because we didn't get to the point where we were more, so it's very, very important from the company and the person to at least have an understanding, right? Yeah. If you're not very sure and you're taking this job because the one that you really wanted said no, try not to do that to a company.
Yeah. Sure.
Because, you're not going to be able to give them as much value as you think at the beginning.
Yeah. You got to pay the bills, but maybe there's a better way. Right. Well, before we take a break and then move into the technical portion, is there any interview horror stories you have in the past that maybe terrified job seekers could relate to and think, okay, well, at least it won't be that bad, right?
So it's funny. Again, this is all about focusing on the potential. but I always, this person still works with us, and it's just an ongoing joke that we had, but of like, how you got to hire, how do you get to, it's a awesome investment we have done, incredible person, human being, had been awesome, I think for us. But I would tell him, I said, like, if you ever, you don't work with us, don't do that in an interview. So I did this interview, and it was signed for an internship. So you accommodate yourself for, it was even internship, right?
Yeah.
And we were trying to decide it was going to be a paid internship, and it's going to be, we normally do paid internships, right? The idea of somebody working for free would be only if it's your kid, maybe, know. So it was technically going to be like a paid interview. We do this interview, and I didn't know that much. It was a new thing, but then I go and it's like, okay, so what did you do in your last job, right? Or what was the thing that you did? Carry boxes. And I was like, we're a tech company. Do you know you interview for a tech company? Tell me something related to tech, not that you carry boxes. And then I was like, but I really was trying to make this work. So I was like, okay, why you were carrying boxes? And then we go to something substantial, because it's like, I was carrying boxes because I was the stronger in the team. And the team, we needed to do this, and I was the bigger and the stronger. So for me to carry boxes wasn't that big of a deal. While other people in the team, I was like, okay, we got somewhere.
Yeah, there you go. You got a team player instead of just
you can take a carrying boxes, become a team player answer.
Yeah.
That's the moral of the story, is dig deep a little bit in your answer. I was there and I was curious, so I went the next step. But if I would have gone the next step, that was not going to end up well. Yeah. And I'm very, very glad it did, because then it became an awesome relationship. But just go a little bit further.
Sure. Great. Well, let's take a quick break here, and then when we come back, we'll move into the technical portion. All right?
All right. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you for watching the first half of the Professional Technical Interviewee. The technical interview will be released 1 week from this episode, so be sure to subscribe to make sure you don't miss it. New episodes are released on the first 4 Thursdays of each month. Find us on YouTube at youtube.com/Dorsett, or on Apple Podcast or Spotify. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on new episodes. And remember, keep practicing.